I'm really excited to introduce Josie Gwin, someone whose journey and achievements are truly inspiring. And in this episode, we're going to get a closer look at her story, hear about the challenges she's faced, and learn about the incredible work that she's doing. So, to get us started, Josie, could you give our viewers a brief introduction about yourself, a little bit about your current organization, your role, and your journey at the University of Edinburgh as well?
Sure. I'm the co-founder and CEO of a charity called the Resilience Resource. And the Resilience Resource provides resilience building tools and resources along with crisis and critical incident aftercare for individuals, communities, and organizations, primarily in humanitarian aid and disaster contexts, but also more broadly. And I'm also doing my PhD at the School of Divinity. I'm doing an ethics and practical theology PhD. So I'm investigating the contribution of faith practices to the development of resilience in communities. So I'm in a position where my work informs my research and my research informs my work. So it's definitely a gift to be involved in this program at the university.
That must be such an interesting journey to have, to be able to combine both as well. Um, Josie, from what I've, read about you, you wear so many impactful hats as the founder and CEO of Resilience Resource, even as a community crisis care consultant and a mental health coach as well. I was really interested in, learning about how your journey really began. What inspired you to take the first steps towards building this incredible path?
Sure. So, in a different life, I was actually an equine therapist. So, using horses to work with children and families and teams that were going through crisis and critical incident. At the time, I was also a firefighter alongside with my husband, and just saw the need within our community for resilience resources for critical incident aftercare. And along with a colleague who's actually still a part of our charity, we developed a first responder chaplaincy team within our region of the United States where we were living at the time. So that really led me into the world of disaster response, crisis care, mental health support for people who were going through traumatic experiences. And that eventually led to getting involved in the humanitarian aid world. And so I started serving in various disaster zones around the world and providing mental health support, psychosocial training, and resilience building care. About 5 years ago, my husband and I just really saw a gap in the preparatory piece, so helping people to build their resilience toolboxes. And so that's why we developed our charity. We've got a team of about 16 that we have the privilege of serving alongside. And yeah, it's just a gift to be here and to be in this place in my life.
That's a really inspiring journey, to be honest, because I feel like it seems like you found the problem and you actually worked towards, figuring out how you can actually have an impact, what change you can make, which can be so difficult at times as well. So just with, I'd say, taking the first steps, were there any challenges that you faced in the beginning, just starting your journey? I know you started, with animal therapy, being a firefighter. So just some challenges starting your own thing.
I think at the beginning stages of anything new, there's all kinds of challenges, especially if you're starting something new while you're still learning what it means to start something new. The ins and outs of developing a nonprofit or a charity, the business side that's necessary to put that together, as well as the people development side. So connecting with others, developing your team. Helping them be empowered to learn and grow while you are also learning and growing. So certainly there's all kinds of of challenges and roadblocks that come up through the course of that. Not the least of which is, the charity and nonprofit world, funding is a consistent issue. And so there's so much more that can be done when funding is consistent, and then times that you have to scale back even when there's a need, because you just don't have the funding to move forward. And so I think those are probably the hardest times when you know that you have the capacity to respond, you know that the need is there, and there's just financial limitations that are put in place that prevent you from being able to step into that space. When I first got involved in this world, I was in my early 20s. I'm getting ready to turn 50 this year. So it's a lot of years of just continuing to try again. When you hit those roadblocks, just working with creativity to find ways around them or over them, or to determine if that's actually a redirection and an indicator that you should maybe let something go and move forward in a different direction.
Well, that's remarkable. I know you touched on perseverance and actually just continuously trying and working towards it, which can be really difficult. I was just wondering, as a woman in a leadership role, are there any resilience building strategies that you believe have been really helpful to you along your journey?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think the core resilience piece has been community, has those support systems, having those support systems in place is really crucial. My husband is an amazing support. We make an incredible team, and I really, we couldn't be where we're at without each other. And certainly navigating the challenges that come when you do enter a room as a woman in a leadership position. There's all kinds of dynamics that you quickly learn to become aware of. Some of those dynamics can be roadblocks in and of themselves.
Mhm.
I was in the process of kind of developing my own certifications and learning, and that took time to come to fruition. So there were certainly different points where I would go in to advocate for the work that we were doing, and maybe the perspective was I didn't have the certifications necessary to be able to give voice to those things. So I had to get really creative about how to engage others in seeing the need and the value for the development of resilience and for mental health support pieces.
I feel like the journey obviously just does become quite easier when you have someone who's supporting you and with you throughout it. With resilience, there's also quite a lot of misconceptions that I've personally come across, like resilient people don't need anyone's help, or resilience is about suppressing emotions. And through your journey, have you witnessed any of these misconceptions and that women should be aware of?
Oh, 100%. There are all kinds of mixed messages surrounding resilience, not the least of which is if you're resilient, it means you aren't impacted by the events that happen in your life, which is just so it's so not true. Resilience is actually identifying the impact and then assessing what tools you have available to you to be able to negotiate whatever event you're experiencing, or the context that you find yourself in. It's so much more about assessment and creativity and curiosity. And that's what allows you to go through those events from really a place of human flourishing. And human flourishing doesn't deny the impact, it acknowledges the impact and the reality that we are human, and it provides the opportunity for us to heal and recover from the experiences that we have in life. When we are faced with those messages, I think especially as women, there can be often that perspective that, women are more emotional, like they, wrestle with maybe maybe they have the softer skills, but maybe we don't feel like those softer skills are necessary. Things like high emotional IQ and an ability to develop relationships in an effective way. Research is showing over and over again that for today and the future, it's those soft skills that are going to become the most necessary. The ability to connect with people, the ability to develop others to step into leadership roles. And that's something that in many ways women have had to practice over and over and over again as we've negotiated some of the roadblocks and limitations that we face as we move into different roles throughout our careers.
Just developing those soft skills, and you've mentioned about, identifying impact and finding all the tools available for women. How do they go about finding these tools that you've mentioned before?
There's some great research out of the US. A couple of neuroscientists, psychologists developed what they call factors of resilience. And it's just an identified kind of toolbox of resilience contexts or concepts that are common to humanity. So anybody can develop these factors of resilience. And it's things like a moral compass. How do you decide what's right and wrong, and what informs that decision-making capacity? Faith and spirituality and understanding of something bigger than yourself is a really important factor of resilience that often informs a moral compass. A sense of meaning and purpose. Do you examine what you've gone through in your life with curiosity to find that identified meaning and purpose behind it? And again, kind of recognizing that we don't arrive at resilience. It's an ongoing, lifelong process that has an ebb and a flow. We want to make it a binary thing. We either are resilient or we're not. And it's not binary at all. There are things that will knock us back a bit in our sense of resilience. And that's where we can dig into those tools, those factors of resilience like adaptability, curiosity, community. Those are all tools of resilience that we can tap into, that we can actually intentionally strengthen throughout our life.
Definitely. You've mentioned about it being a lifelong, journey of staying curious and just being open to adaptability. But I was just wondering, please correct me if I'm wrong, but as a university student, I feel like these couple of years are very important when it comes to learning those skills and really making it a habit, of just going out of your comfort zone and being adaptable. So I particularly feel like university is a very important time for that. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, I would agree. I mean, I think there's a distinct context of university that provides opportunities in a unique way that is not always present outside the world of academia. And it does take a level of courage and initiative to identify the opportunities that are available to you and push into those. This is where community can make a big difference when you've got a friend or a fellow student that can come alongside you and engage in those activities together if it feels too overwhelming to do it by yourself. But it's really a condensed context that provides opportunities in a way that's just so unique, where you can go into any building on campus, you can look up any class that's available to you, you can talk to world-class experts, you can look at various networks that are within the university that you can connect with. You can connect with groups like Edinburgh Women in Business and meet people from all around the world, again, in a way that's a bit unique to academia.
Definitely. And even the fact that you mentioned about, having your community and community building, I feel like as an international student, that's something that I've particularly felt coming here when you have a community and, people with, I'd say, similar background. It just makes it easier to handle tasks together. So that is definitely a really good point that I've experienced myself. I actually read a really interesting article on your website, which was about the ancient practice of Sabbath. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, which is the opportunity of rest and renewal. And I was wondering if you have any tips for handling the feeling of burnout, especially as a university student.
Yes, actually, my husband and I are just finishing a book on burnout that we're getting ready to release soon. But uh, rest is actually resistance. It's resistance to the various forms of our culture and society that work to drive us into that place of burnout. And when we can step back on a regular basis, weekly, even for a few moments each day, and just experience maybe whatever's life-giving for you, and everybody's unique. It might be just a few moments, sitting with your eyes closed in a chair where you're just quiet. It might be going for a walk in the forest. It might be meeting a friend for coffee, but something where you're not producing. We live in a global culture that says that our success is tied to our production, and our success is not tied to our production. Our success is inherent to the value that we are as a human being, or that we have as a human being. So in that way, we have already been successful. We've already achieved success because we are a unique, gifted, skilled individual who has something to bring to the world. So engaging in Shabbat or rest is that act of resistance that says, I don't have to produce to mean something. I don't have to produce to be successful. I can produce, and that can bring meaning to me, and that can help to support my community, but that doesn't define who I am. My production is not my identity. My inherent value as a human being is my identity. We live in a culture that or global society where we're bombarded with noise and news and sensory overload in a way never before seen in human history. And we haven't really adapted the coping mechanisms to deal with that in a healthy way. Rest is a tool that we can use to allow our bodies to reset and re-engage with life. It helps to support creativity. It helps to support curiosity. It can help to support community. Just yesterday, for example, this has been a really, really full couple of weeks for me for a variety of reasons. I could have pushed through yesterday afternoon, just been like, I have so much to get done. And it was gorgeous and sunny and 14 Celsius in March in Edinburgh. And my husband and I said, we've got to get into the forest. Like, the only way that we're going to make it through the next couple of weeks is actually if we set everything down and take a couple of hours to just go find the things that bring us life. And it was exactly what we needed. I woke up this morning ready to face the day, excited for this conversation with you and some other tasks that I've got going on. And I definitely wouldn't have been that way if I hadn't taken those couple of hours.
That's, I feel like there's a lot of times where I know I need a break, but like you mentioned before, we live in an age where, our success is tied to production. And being a university student, you have assignments and deadlines, and your grades are that production that's, determining your success. And there's with, I think, the advancement of technology, I think a lot of students would relate to that. There's a lot of times on your For You page where you get motivational reels about just pushing through and, just giving it your best and being super productive. So how do you find that point where you should take a break? Like you figured out last week that this is the time that I should just stop, go have a nice walk with your husband. But it's so difficult to find that point where you don't know if you're just tired and you have to push through, or if you've actually reached the burnout point.
Yes. Hustle culture is such a strong message in our global society. And like I said, that rest is an act of resistance against
Mhm.
hustle culture, because that's really what hustle culture tells us, is
Yeah.
that you are what you produce.
Mhm.
When I find myself getting to that point of uh, overwhelm, of exhaustion where I really am wrestling to get into that deep work stage where I can coherently put sentences together or make decisions. There's a weariness that I can feel in
Mhm.
my bones. My emotions start to kind of get to that spillover peak where, I might get really easily frustrated, or I might just feel like, gosh, I just can't even think straight. I'm feeling really overwhelmed. That's when I know I've got to set everything down. Um, I also learned early on that I have to strategize my deadlines. And then this is just for me personally. I've got to look ahead to my deadline and then work backwards and build in that buffer. When I would push all the way to my deadlines and then kind of scramble to get things done at the last minute, then you really don't have the opportunity, to be able to set things aside. But if I could build in that buffer, because things always happen, things pop up at the last minute, activities occur that you're like, oh, I want to be a part of that. I didn't expect I was going to be a part of that. That's taking some time. Um, my bus got canceled for the third time in 3 days. And so now it's taking me so much longer to get to my classes. If you can build in that buffer that accounts for the unexpected, then you can find the opportunity to set things aside to be able to restore and refresh. And research continues to show that when we do that, we actually are more productive on the flip side of it. So rather than pushing through and only working at maybe 30% capacity, trickle capacity, if we can step back for an hour or two, we can actually come back in at 60% capacity. So then our chance to move through what we need to do more quickly is much higher, as opposed to if we were just like, I just got to shove it through. I just got to keep going. I just got to hit this deadline. Um, because then once you hit that deadline, there's going to be another deadline. There's going to be
Yeah,
another assignment. There's going to be another
never ending.
project. So you're just going to keep going, right? Uh, so yeah, we have to take the time when we're hitting that whatever symptoms are for you, and it takes some time to
Mhm.
identify and assess what those symptoms are. Everybody's a little bit different. But then also when you do hit that deadline, taking the time to celebrate, taking the time to step back and go, whatever's life-giving for me, I'm going to celebrate that I submitted this journal entry. I'm going to celebrate that I turned in this essay. I'm going to celebrate that I finished this stage of my project, even if it's not the whole project, because those are the things that can help keep us going and make us actually more effective in our work in the long run.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of my friends would agree to what I'm going to say now. With university submissions, a lot of us do actually procrastinate and do it at the end moment because the stress is actually what helps drive us. The stress motivates you in a way to finish the work. And a lot of us need that stress to actually get the work done. So in terms of that, how do you stay motivated and driven in your professional journey?
Well, to be fair, when I was in my 20s, it was a lot easier to do that. I had a little bit more energy to be able to postpone things or procrastinate things and to deal with that stress.
Mhm.
The reality is we eventually pay the price for that. So
Yeah.
that becomes a rhythm of life that when you do get into your 30s and 40s, will um, result in a decrease in energy and productivity. So if you can learn the lessons in your 20s of how to strategize your deadlines, how to take a look at what stages of your project are present, and early on tackle the things that don't require as much motivation. And then when you get to those points where you're like, I know that stress is most motivating for me, you've already got some good pieces of your project done. But if you can really evaluate, hey, these are the things that are simple for me to do on the front end and just knock those
Mhm.
out, it will really pay off.
Definitely. I think that's really good advice. But it's also a journey where you have to actually, to practice it is very difficult from my own experience as well. But I've had many rewards for for weeks, for tasks that I've done. But it's very difficult to stay consistent on that as well. So definitely
Well,
we'll still be, yeah.
It's just important to remember that nobody has life figured out. Like all of life is practice.
Mhm.
So, I'm turning 50 this year. Like I said, I don't have life figured out. There's still lots of things that I do through trial and error. And something works, and you go, okay, let's do more of that. Something doesn't work, you go, okay, well, we've got to do something different next time. And
Yeah.
that's an ongoing, lifelong process. Nobody arrives or comes into anything knowing exactly what to do. We learn the most when we fail. We learn the most when we make mistakes. It's what we do with those failures and mistakes that will determine what the next experience is going to look like.
I agree. I fully agree. I think failing and being curious is so important because it's only when you learn from those mistakes that you can actually do better, and maybe try something different. Which comes to my second last question. Do you have any advice for women in business?
Yes, I think something that's really important for women is to continue to find the things that are unique to you
Mhm.
that you celebrate. We we live in a world that is wrestling with dehumanization in a variety of spaces for a variety of reasons, and to identify the skill sets, the experiences, the things that are unique to you that you really go, this is amazing. And it's okay that I celebrate this part of me. There's so many messages that are going to come against you that tell you all the things that are wrong about you and all the things you should fix or change or adjust to fit in or to achieve that next step in your career or to fight against the roadblocks and the limitations that you might face. You need to be able to have a solid grasp of the things that are amazing about you that you can go back to when you hit those really tough spots and those dark moments that can remind you who you are and how valuable you are.
That is actually really helpful advice. I think it's very important to know your own worth and to just be self-confident and know how remarkable you are, definitely. And this brings us to our final question. So, your journey, Josie, has been truly compelling and it's been so inspiring as well. So, what's on the horizon for you? What's the next chapter in your story? I know you mentioned the book that's soon going to be releasing. So, just if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yes. So, my husband and I are working on a variety of projects through the resilience resource, and we continue to support communities. We've been supporting over the past couple of years, communities in Ukraine, in Haiti, some in the Middle East, some in the U.S. I'm of course working on my PhD, so I've got just about 2 years left of that and continuing to develop workshops and resources that help to equip and empower people to develop their own resilience, but then also to come alongside others in a relational way to help support them as they go through crisis and critical incident. So we're leading a training here in Edinburgh in November. It's a 2.5 day training called Compassionate Care in Crisis. And it's just a series of tools to help individuals be able to understand and identify when they might be going through crisis and burnout, how to care for themselves in that and move into resilient recovery, but then also how to support their colleagues and their communities in those kinds of crises and critical incidents. And, those can happen. We often think of crisis as happening over there. It happens in another country. It's, some kind of major thing. But crisis is anything that overwhelms our ability to cope. So it can be all kinds of situations that happen to us, throughout our life. And so understanding what that impact is, being okay with identifying and communicating that impact, and then being curious about what might be helpful to restore, recover, heal from that impact. So that's what's coming up in the next couple of months. I also have 4 adult children, so I'm looking forward to spending some time with them in the next year or so. And yeah, just continuing to watch for opportunities to engage with my community and more broadly, more globally.
No, it seems like you have a very, very busy and inspiring life, to be honest, with all the workshops in the book as well. And I'm definitely sure that the workshop is going to be really helpful in just really understanding how we can, do our part in supporting communities in crisis or people, especially sometimes we see friends in need. And I think it'll be really helpful. So with that, thank you so much for taking the time to join us for this interview and, sharing your inspiring journey. So the remarkable work that you've done with Resilience Resource, your commitment to mental health and even community care, it's very impactful and very remarkable as well. And we're really excited to see how you continue to make a difference. So thank you so much, Josie.
You're so welcome. It's just a privilege to have this conversation today. So thanks for having me.
Thank you.